Moin! Why Germany's north sounds so northern? Part 3. Let's dig even deeper. Hi, or in Northern German, Moin. No, it's got nothing to do with morning. If you're curious, I've got a whole video about that. The link is down below. Willkommen. Welcome to the third installment of my mini-series on how people speak in Northern Germany. If you haven't seen the first 2 episodes yet, I recommend checking out those first. They lay the groundwork for what we're diving into here. So far, we've looked at Northern Germany's polyglossia. Fancy word, I know. It just means that several language varieties coexist. In this case, I'm talking about Low Saxon or Low German, the region's original language and several forms of German, the language that gradually took over from the late 1600s onward. If you'd like more historical context, there's a link to one of my videos below. There was no sudden switch from Low Saxon to High German. It was, and still is, a gradual shift with overlapping layers and in-between forms. I've lived through one of the final phases of that change myself, and I speak all the varieties common in my native corner of the world. Remember our 3-layer cake? Standard German, fading Missingsch, and resilient Low Saxon? Today we are biting into the crunchy leftovers from layer 2, Missingsch. That middle layer has been fading since my childhood, but it's not gone. Media and education have pulled it ever closer to Standard German, creating something in between, a kind of Northern German, a Missingsch-tinted Northern Standard German. The more casual in conversation, the stronger the Missingsch flavor. And the more Missingsch, the more Low Saxon echoes you'll catch. If nowadays anyone spoke Missingsch the way I remember it from back then, people will perceive it as even more low-class and uneducated, even more so than Eliza Doolittle's Cockney in London. In the previous 2 episodes, I introduced a few phonetic and grammatical features that are distinctly Northern. In this video, I'll add a bit more about Low Saxon colored phonetics. After that, I'll walk you through more words and expressions, and finally, I'll share a short, made-up text in 4 speech modes. Sounds interesting? I hope it'll be fun too. I'll do my best. So, let's go. In the past, people used to say that Northern Germans stolpern übern spitzen Stein instead of stolpern übern spitzen Stein, stumble over a pointed stone. It was a jab at how Northerners pronounced ST and SP, like in English, Dutch, and Low Saxon, instead of the st and sp you'd expect in Standard German, Luxembourgish, and Yiddish. Low Saxon sticks with the clear S clusters, not just ST and SP, but also SM, SN, and SL. Missingsch originally did the same, following the Low Saxon pattern, but over time it adopted shm, shn, shl. It held on to ST and SP for a little bit longer, and that old school pronunciation even found its way into what we might call refined Northern German. But even that has pretty much faded away by now. I remember the shift to st and sp happening sometime in the mid-20th century. We kids already switched to the Standard German pronunciation, even when speaking Missingsch. But many older folks still held on to the traditional way. They're gone now. Interestingly, the German-speaking community of Kroondal in South Africa still proudly keeps up the old pronunciation of their immigrant ancestors from Northern Germany. Good for them. Let's have a look at these few examples. Spool, 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 spule. Stone, stain, stain, stein. Sleep, slop, slap, schlaf. Smith, smit, smit, schmied. Snow, snay, sneeuw, schnee. So, these days, you'll find very few German speakers who still hang on to the old S pronunciation, making that old jab about Stolpern übern Spitenstein feel pretty redundant by now. What's more, I now hear more and more speakers of Low Saxon switching to the sh pronunciation. Add to that the growing number of folks who've traded the authentic tongue tip R for a guttural one. And I'm left with this sinking feeling. The true sound of the North is fading fast. It makes me a little sad, and it reminds me that, linguistically speaking, I've become something of a dinosaur. But let's shift gears, away from the past that, to me, feels recent, but to younger folks might already seem prehistoric. Let's head up to the attic and rummage through our old lingo chest. Pick out a few more words and expressions still clinging to life in northern Germany. Let's enjoy them before they too go all dusty and moth-eaten. Don't worry, my attic isn't all that scary. The only ghosts up there are of the linguistic variety, or so I believe. But hey, I'm no spökenkicker. That's another word borrowed from Low Saxon. A spook is a ghost, yes, related to English spook. And spöken means to haunt. You've met the word kicken before, to look. So, a spökenkicker is someone who sees ghosts. These days we'd probably call them a psychic or even ghost hunter. So don't be a Büchsenschieter. Remember, in the last video we came across two more Low Saxon roots. Büchs means pants, and Schieter, well, yeah, it's what you might think. While cheetah can be used affectionately in some contexts, Büchsenschieter definitely can't. It's more contemptuous than Bangbüchs, a scaredy cat, and it leans a little bit more toward coward. Inge geht gerne zu Veranstaltungen von Spökenkicker Luigi Buhmann. Inge, ihr Mann, kommt aber nie mit, ist sowieso so ein Büchsenschieter. Inge likes to go to events held by Luigi Buhmann, the psychic, but her husband never comes along. He's such a yellow belly anyway. And speaking of cheetah in a less than endearing sense, let's look at the Low Saxon derived word Cloak cheetah. When you drop this into a German sentence, it sounds a bit softer than the more common High German Klugscheißer. Low Saxon versions usually come across as less harsh in German, probably because they are perceived as cuter, maybe even a bit comic. Okay, Cloak cheetah. Like German klug, Low Saxon cloak means intelligent or smart. So we're talking about a smart aleck or a smart ass. Someone who annoys people by constantly excreting his supposedly superior knowledge all over the place. So ein Cloak cheetah, als ob sich auskennt wie kein anderer. Such a smartass, as if he knows his stuff like no other. And what a Cloak cheetah loves doing most is sabbeln. Yep, it's the favorite pastime of a Sabbelbüdel, the overly talkative type you met in the previous video. Sabbeln means to blather, to blabber, to rattle on and on. This Low Saxon word goes back to the root sab, which must mean to drool. So sabbeln would literally mean to drool incessantly. And in fact, Low Saxon sabbern does mean exactly that, to drool. In the Missingsch of my childhood, we said säbern, obviously just a variant of sabbern. Hör endlich auf zu sabbeln, da gehst du einem ja total auf die Nerven mit. Stop babbling, you're really getting on my nerves. And what sabbeln is an essential part of is Gedöns. Yep, a whole lot of sabbelei and carrying on. Low Saxon Gedöns means something like rigmarole, hullabaloo, fuss, or big to-do, and the stereotypically taciturn North German, not a fan. Sag Jutta da mal bloß nix vorn, sonst macht die da wieder so'n Gedönse aus. Just don't tell Jutta anything about it, otherwise she'll start making a big to-do about it again. And what often goes hand in hand with Sabbelei and Gedöns? Dummtüch, of course. The word comes from Low Saxon dumm tüch, literally dumb stuff. It sounds a bit cuter than the standard German equivalent dummes Zeug. Jetzt schnackst du wieder Dummtüch. Now you're talking nonsense again. And who talks and does lots of Dummtüch? A tüffel or turfel, of course. A twit, a goof, a fool, a numbskull, who, on top of it all, is a klutz. Apparently, this Low Saxon word comes from pantoffel, slipper. You know, the kind you wear on your feet at home. To strengthen the insult, you can say tüffel 18. That last part is Low Saxon for 18. What's wrong with slippers and the number 18? I have no idea. Do you? Pantuffeln can also be called Puschen. Actually, Puschen also includes the kinds that cover your whole feet, the soft, cozy kind you might wear in your bedroom while reading a Schmöke or watching YouTube or Puschenkino. A new nickname for television, Kino meaning cinema. Puschen is a plural form, and the word apparently can only be used in the plural. Makes sense, unless you have only one foot or are still looking for the missing mate of a slipper. Puschen is believed to have come from the French babouche, which in turn comes from Northwest African Arabic babouche, originally Berber, meaning footwear. An alternative to Puschen is the supposed parent form Pampuschen. Mit Puschen an kannst bei dem Schiedwetter nicht mal den Apfel rausbringen. In this crappy weather, you can't even take out the trash wearing slippers. I guess you can take out the trash in Puschen when the weather gets a bisschen better. This word doesn't come from Low Saxon, where the equivalent is beten, a relative of English bit, as in a bit. Bisschen is simply the northern pronunciation of German bisschen, which originally meant little bite, so a bit. Ich mach mal ein bisschen weniger Salz rein. I'll add a bit less salt. Did you notice something again in bisschen? Yep, lip rounding, that classic North German pouty mouth. In Standard German, a pout or a pouty mouth is called a Schmollmund. In the North, it's a flunsch. Apparently, that comes from the somewhat archaic verb flennen, to weep. So it's flensch, originally an adjective, weepy looking or weepish. And what happens up north? You guessed it. Tada, lip rounding, talking with a flunsch. Jetzt sieht sie schon wieder ne flunsch. Now she's pulling a pouty face again. Yeah, those pouty lips. Kannst nix beimachen. That's Northern German for there's nothing you can do about it, or simply it is what it is. Kannst nix machen on its own works just fine too, but beimachen adds that unmistakable Northern flavor. Schon wieder Montag. Tja, kannst nix beimachen. It's Monday again. Well, there's nothing you can do about it. And speaking of lip rounding, it comes in handy when you give someone a Zoten, or along the lower Elbe, a Zoten, literally a sweet one in Low Saxon. You guessed it, it's a kiss. In Standard German, that's just a Kuss, and in Low Saxon, it is Kuss. Not nearly as cute or sweet as a Zoten. Krieg ich da jetzt auch mal einen Zoten für? Am I going to get a smooch for that now? Oh, and you can also call a beloved person Zoten, pretty much like sweetie in English, also implying cutie. You could use Standard German Süße for a female and Süße for a male, including children or pets. But Zoten, it's not only gender neutral, it also sounds Zoter. Time to start winding down the vocabulary section for this video. Zche. Zche? What's that? It comes from Low Saxon Zche and means something like slow and steady or gently. But originally it traces back to the Dutch adverb zoetjes, a diminutive form of zoet, which is the equivalent of Low Saxon zoet, German süß, and English sweet. Yes, we're still riding the sweet train. So, what does sweet have to do with slow and steady? I suspect Dutch created zoetjes on the model of French doucement, meaning gently, but literally sweetly. Man immer schön Zche, dass das nicht kaputt geht. Slow and steady now, so it doesn't break. So, Let's go to the promised section with a short text in 4 versions. Damals war es auf dem Fischmarkt anders, finde ich. Damals ist es auf dem Fischmarkt anders gewesen, finde ich. Damals ist es auf dem Fischmarkt anders gewesen, finde ich. Dunto Moin ist dat op dem Fischmarkt anders West, dünkt mi. Man musste sonntags allerdings sehr früh da sein und konnte sich auf dem Hinweg nicht aufhalten. Hast aber schon ganz früh sonntags hingemusst und ja keine Dödelei auf der Hinfahrt. Hast man schon ganz früh sonntags hingemusst und ja keine Dödelei auf der Hinfahrt. Hast man all für da und Dach sonntags Pad ziehen musst und bloß kein Dödelei. Der Markt war immer vor 10 Uhr beendet, nur ein paar Stunden war er offen. Der Markt war schon immer vor 10 vorbei. Nur ein paar Stunden ist er offen gewesen. Der Markt ist ja schon immer vor 10 vorbei gewesen. Nur ein paar Stunden ist er offen gewesen. Der Markt ist schon altjümmers für Klocktein vorbei west. Man bloß ein paar Stunden ist der open west. Dort gab es eine gemischte Menschenmenge. Was für ein Kuddelmuddel da. Was für ein Kuddelmuddel da. Was ein Kuddelmuddel da. Viele Touristen waren dabei und noch Betrunkene, die seit Samstagabend auf Kneipenbummel gewesen waren. Ein Haufen Touristen mit bei und noch Betrunkene, die seit Sonnabend auf dem Switch gewesen waren. Ein Haufen Touristen mit bei und noch Dune, die von Sonnabend ab an auf dem Switch gewesen sind. Ein Bach Touristen mit bei und noch Dune, die von Sonnabend ab an auf dem Switch west wären. Und das Geschrei, zu der Zeit war auch gelegentlich noch Plattdeutsch dabei. Und das Geschrei, da ist zu der Zeit auch noch ab und zu Platt mit bei gewesen. Und das Krakeelen, da ist zu die Zeit auch noch ab und an Platt mit bei gewesen. Und das Krakeelen, da ist to die Zeit auch noch ab und an Platt mit bei west. Oops, looking at the text I just presented to you, I owe you a lexical bonus, 2 precisely. As you may have figured, dialectal Northern German "dun" means drunk. It comes from Low Saxon. The Low Saxon phrase dick und dun kicks dun up a notch. Completely drunk. Low Saxon and German dick are relatives of English thick and can also mean fat. The original meaning of dun is swollen or puffed up. So, someone fat and swollen is full, right? Full of what? Originally perhaps too much food, and in extension too much drink of certain type. German voll and Low Saxon full can mean either satiated or drunk. And finally say hi to Kuddelmuddel. It's a confusion, a mess up, mixed up mass or diverse crowd with a flavor of chaos. Strangely, in medieval Low Saxon it meant dirty linen or superficially washed clothes. From kuddeln or koddeln, meaning to wash clothes superficially. The muddle part may be related to Low Saxon mudda or modda, meaning mud. Yes, English muddle is related to it, being derived from Middle Dutch muddelen, to make muddy or to make into mud. But obviously kuddelmuddel is the product of wordplay, and we shouldn't get carried away etymologizing. Enough of this kuddelmuddel. And that's it for today. Hope you enjoyed this little journey through languages, dialects, and diverse fish market crowds and a little look at my lingo chest in the attic. And if you made it this far, I know that you're a language nerd after my own heart. Or maybe you're just into kuddelmuddel, no judgment. If you like this episode, give it a thumbs up, drop a comment, or share it with someone who enjoys discovering linguistic quirks. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now's a great time. There's more where this came from. Thanks again, stay curious, and as always, tschüss, kijk maar weer erin. Check back sometime. See ya next time.